So, I wanted to do like a little update. Kind of not really going over like just sphincter of oddi dysfunction, but everything I'm kind of going through. So the last 2 years have just been really insane and miserable for pretty much everyone in my family. In April of 2016, my brother died in a motorcycle accident. And he was like my best friend. We've lived together our entire lives. He was 22 and I was 24. And it just kind of like fucked me up really bad. So after that, I was diagnosed with chronic pancreatitis and sphincter of oddi dysfunction in 2015. So I had had it for like 2 years before that, and then got diagnosed in 2015, and then he had chronic pancreatitis, and we suspected he had sphincter of oddi dysfunction, but we didn't even know what it was until after he died. So it was kind of weird, and we didn't know what was going on. So in 2015, everything was kind of great. And, like, for me, emotionally, I was in a really good place. My relationship was going really well. My kid was doing great. Everything was awesome. I was losing tons of weight, and I felt really good about myself, and I was eating low carb, and I was just really happy. My biggest problems were the sphincter of oddi dysfunction and, like, being in pain all the time. That's when I started taking Percocet every day, and then I would still have attacks randomly, and it was just miserable. So, but overall, like, that was probably the best year of my life. Then in 2016, I got fired from my job, and he died a month later, and then I quit smoking in June, and that was just a whole concoction of things that added up to me basically like going off the deep end. So I gained a bunch of weight. In 2 years, I gained 60 pounds, which is ridiculous. Like, that was the heaviest I've ever been in my life, because I've been a really like health conscious person for 10 years, and all of a sudden it was just like going out the window, and it just really sucked. So, then on Mother's Day this year, 2018, I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, okay, well, I wasn't supposed to get pregnant with all my problems, and I was really overweight when I got pregnant, and I'm like, this is just gonna go really badly. But I knew it's what I really wanted, and that I was gonna follow through with everything. So immediately, developed hyperemesis, started puking 30 plus times a day. I lost 20 pounds right away, and it was just like miserable. So for the first 4 months of my pregnancy, I was vomiting pretty much anytime something happened to me. Like, I would eat, I'd vomit, or I'd drink something and I'd vomit. I couldn't drink water for months. And I ended up in the hospital a few times with contractions or pain or dehydration or whatever, and it was horrible. So then about probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, right when I was like about 20 weeks, my nausea just kind of went. It's been really controlled with medication, and I've been doing a lot better. So I've been eating and eating for a while, and I ended up gaining back the 20 pounds that I lost, plus another 7. So that sucked, because I was like, okay, well, now I'm definitely the heaviest I've ever been, and it's really freaking me out. And the added weight and the added pressure of being pregnant and the hormone changes and everything has pretty much put me into like this dark spiral of like pain and misery. So, like, completely wheelchair bound outside of the home. So when I'm at home, I can walk from like room to room or whatever. But if I'm cooking or anything like that, I have to be in the wheelchair, because I can't stand for more than like 5 minutes without my back just like giving out. So, overall, it's just been like, I went through like a really black hole depression for a couple of months. I was crying constantly, and I ended up going to a psychiatrist and getting on Prozac because it's a pregnancy safe antidepressant, and I was having some suicidal thoughts, and it was more like I didn't want to die because I was depressed. I wanted to die because I was in so much pain and no one was helping me except my husband, and it was just like no doctors were listening to me, and everyone was like, you can't have contractions unless you're dehydrated. So they all kept saying I was dehydrated, and now like I've been drinking a gallon of water a day for the last like month, and no one cares like, or like understands that like I'm not dehydrated. I promise you, like it's not dehydration. So so I was getting really like discouraged and stuff. But the Prozac seems to be helping a lot, which is weird because I tried Zoloft when I was pregnant with my daughter, and it made me extremely sick, like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, like instantly. It was awful. So I tried it twice, and it happened both times, and I was like, this is not gonna work for me. So the Prozac kind of like scared me, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna happen, and then I was totally fine. It gave me a little bit of nausea, so I started taking it at night, and that helped a lot. So overall, like mentally, I'm doing a lot better now. I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and it's hard because nowadays it seems like pretty much everyone has some sort of mental illness. Like it's kind of like rampant, and I'm like not sure how I feel about that. So I didn't want to be lumped in with a bunch of other people and like, oh yeah, you have anxiety, so does everybody else. But it's like, it's different. Like I wasn't like this before my brother died. Like I was doing pretty decently. I was dealing with a lot of depression in high school, but that was pretty much it. And once I moved out on my own and all that stuff, I was pretty much like really stable and everything was fine. But recently, I started having attacks again. My pancreas is like super sore all the time. I tried going low carb to not get as fat. And that just like messed my organs up. Like my pancreas just hurt so bad. And so like I did it for like a day. I went like probably like 10 grams of carbs. Oh, well, I had some fruit and stuff. So, like, I'd say probably like 20 grams of carbs throughout the day. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, I was having an attack. And I was like, I haven't felt this pain in 7 months. And it really freaked me out. So then the next day, I started eating carbs again. Because I was like, okay, well, maybe I can make it through the rest of the pregnancy without having another attack. And then that night, I had another attack. And then for the last 3 days, it's just been like constant achy pain, just like it used to be. Like my pancreas is super pissed off. So that sent me into like more like a I need to prepare myself. So I decided to like get my will done and my living will and a power of attorney, so that, you know, because my husband isn't my daughter's biological father, so I was concerned that he wouldn't be able to pick her up from the hospital if I was in a coma or something like that, because he technically like doesn't have rights to her. So I wasn't sure how that would work. So I wanted to like get all the paperwork in order and stuff, but going over all of that crap and like my burial and like what I wanted just kind of sent me over the edge. And I was like, this is really freaking depressing. Like I feel like I'm on death's door 24/7. Like I am terrified of dying all the time. And my worst fear is dying and my daughter being left alone with me. So like my husband travels for work, like he goes on business trips all the time, and I'm always scared that she's gonna be there and I'm gonna be gone and she's not gonna be able to deal with it or help me or do anything, and she's just gonna be stuck in the house with a dead body. Like that is like my worst case scenario. So it really freaks me out. And So I decided to like get a life alert, which is really weird because when I looked it up, it's like a bunch of like old people on the website, and I'm like, some people have problems, like anyone could die at any point, so you don't have to be old to need a life alert. So it's like, whatever. Anyway, so I decided like I would wear a life alert bracelet or something so that if something happened to me, she would be able to just push the button, because that's an easier instruction than trying to get her to unlock my phone and call 911. It was like, I've tried teaching her how to call 911, but I think unless you're like consistently talking about it all the time, she's not gonna remember. She's only 4, so I'm like, this is just a lot for her to deal with. And of course, in this situation, she's probably gonna be losing her mind trying to figure out what's going on with me. So I figured just pushing a button is like way easier and she could deal with that. And all I have to say is, if I'm not waking up, push this button. And that's all the instructions she needs. So that's easier. But yeah, with the fear of dying is really a lot right now. And also just dealing with a lot of body image issues, and you know, I've never weighed this much, and last time I was pregnant, like, no one even could tell that I was pregnant for a long period of time, but with this one, I was, like, massive at, like, 8 weeks, and, now I'm just trying to be positive, but I also want to be aware that these things are happening, and that as time goes on, especially after the baby's born and my hormones go back to normal, I'm going to start having attacks again, and I might get pancreatitis, and just, yeah, so I'm like, just really uncomfortable. Like, I'm pretty miserable, and I don't want to say that I regret getting pregnant, because I don't. Like, I really want this baby. It's just that I'm pretty sure, like, I ruined what my body could have been, or took myself back to being completely disabled because I wanted to have a baby. So that kind of sucks. Like, I'm not sure I'm gonna survive for the next 10 years even, or whatever, just trying to make it through. I just want to see my kids grow up. That's it. But it seems like a lot to ask now, since I can't walk or do anything or take care of myself or take care of my family, and trying to figure out how my husband's gonna work away from the house while I have 2 kids at home. Like, it's just, it's bad. So I just kind of needed like a vent session. So this is a 14-minute video. Yeah, but that's for like anyone that subscribes to my stuff, because, you know, you guys seem to care about like how things are going and stuff like that. But that's the latest of what's going on, kind of like where my mind is at right now. So yeah, there you go.